back with a slow cooker cubed goose breast recipe. So we're gonna make the marinade with garlic, olive oil, soy sauce, mushroom soup. Well, that mushroom soup is for the gravy. French's Worcestershire sauce, Sleeman's Canadian-made beer from Guelph, Ontario, lemon juice, and good old Canada goose breast. I got this back in February on the late season goose hunt. I've got my meat cut up. That's one goose breast. That was quite a big goose breast. Now I've cleaned off, you can see here, I've cleaned off the bloodshot and any bits of fat and stuff, and you don't really want that in your stew. Don't cut your cubes too small because they'll dry out in the cooking process and it won't be very nice. So here's my marinade. I'll just let you know what's in there. I showed you the contents. So there's a half cup of soy sauce, half cup of beer. It has to be Canadian beer. Not really, but 4 teaspoons of vegetable oil, 4 teaspoons of lemon juice, 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. I put in 2 cloves of fresh garlic. I like to use fresh garlic. This meat in the marinade and let it sit for about 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours. The recipe says overnight, but you don't really need to leave it that long. So we'll let that sit. We'll cover it, stir it up, and cover it, and just let it sit as long as you have time for, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so we're at the second step is to make the flour coating. So for that we use 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, and just throw that in a bowl with they call for 1.5 teaspoons of salt, but I'm only going to use a half a teaspoon. I'm not a big salt lover, and I know that the marinade already has quite a bit of salt in the soy sauce, so we'll just do for me personally, just a half a teaspoon. And we're going to do 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and I've got the mill. I like to use the fresh ground stuff, and then we'll use a 1/4 cup of butter to brown the meat once we dredge it in this. Okay, so now that we've got our flour mixture mixed up, I'll go back into the fridge and grab the marinating meat out of here, and I'm just going to give it a stir because it's been in there for an hour now, but I want to give it a stir and make sure that it's all covered, and we'll put it back in the fridge. While you're waiting for that marinade to do its job, you can drink the rest of the beer and enjoy that, or I would say that I think I need another one. That's not quite enough, but anyways, that's what's left in the bottle. I'll drink that, and then I think I'll get another one. Okay, so I've got about a tablespoon of butter in there and about 2 tablespoons of any type of vegetable oil. Got my dredge mix there, and I've got my meat here that's been I guess it's been marinating for about 4 hours now, maybe a little bit longer in real time. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to dredge it through there. I mean, I don't really have to show you how to do this. Pretty simple. It's a soft batter. Put it in a hot pan. Just keep doing that. Get them nice and brown. Make sure you brown it up. Gives it lots of flavor. And then what I'll do is I'll take that pot. I don't use a slow cooker. I leave it in the cast iron pot. Put the lid on and let it cook in the oven, 325. Check it after an hour because it depends on the goose. Sometimes the goose is really tender. Sometimes it's tough. So you really can't go by time. I think the slow cooker recipe is about 3 hours, and that's way too long for some geese, and other geese it needs to cook that long. But I like to do it in the oven. It gives it a little bit more flavor. Keep the temperature on your pot fairly high, and just let it sit and let it sear, and let get that meat nice and brown on the one side before you try to flip it over. If you flip it over too soon, then it pulls off it will stick to the pan. It pulls off all the browning or the flavor. Okay, now that that's browning up nicely, we'll go over here and we'll mix up our mushroom soup. This is the sauce that you just pour on. So basically, here's your Campbell's soup. I mean, any kind of mushroom soup. You can make your own sauce if you want. So I take that, mix that with 1.5 cups of water, and just mix that in a bowl and pour it over top of your nicely browned meat.
I forgot about this for onion soup mix. They call for a whole package.
I don't know, 113 grams, but that, I find that's way too much. So I usually just put about 1/4 of one of these packets in. Is plenty, because you don't want to overpower it. There's already a lot of flavors going on in there with the marinade that we made. So I'll just dump that in there and mix it up. Pour that over top, completely covers it. Shut that off now. And we'll put our stew into that 350. Try it at an hour and test a piece. And while that's cooking, have another beer. Stove's at 325. It's covered up. Put it in there. Got a timer set for an hour. Check it, see how it's doing.